Welcome back to another episode of Just My Baby Daddy podcast. I'm the bougie baby daddy, Eli.
Oh my God, this is why we don't let you introduce the bougie baby. I'm back. It's AJ. Today we have a special guest, a Renaissance man, as we like to call it. I could say he's a big influence on me as a father and as an individual. A lot of the things he did, I followed the same path, whether it's the tax office, whether it's the photo booth, which we ran together. It's a lot of things he's done that I followed. I won't follow, flying airplanes. I'm gonna leave that part out. The cybersecurity thing, didn't even know he was doing it. He started right before me. Like it just so happens to be that way. We got Mr. Brian Cobb here with us today. How you doing, Brian?
Appreciate it, man. Good. Thanks for having me. Congratulations on the podcast. Very, very, very dope idea. I've listened to a few podcasts, man, and this was a great idea. So congratulations to y'all.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Hey, did B ever tell you that he was the most over-decorated, unappreciated baseball player that I've ever met in my life? He's the only person that I've ever known to fabricate stats from middle school. So
I was really good, man.
He really wanted to be an athlete so bad that he went back to Pee Wee and fabricated his award.
I was dope. I got all types of articles and everything. And my mom's gonna see this and she's gonna comment. I'm telling you, man. Newspaper clippings, the whole 9 yards. So that's hate. That's good hate. I like it.
Newspaper in 7th grade. Get out of here.
Nah, thanks for being here, man. We really appreciate it. And I remember when we were first talking about it, you gave us a lot of positive feedback and insight, and we're glad that you decided to join us and talk to us, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, for sure.
So, B, the way we start off every episode, the first question we ask all our guests is, what does it mean to you to be a father?
Man, it's to be a father is life, man. I did not grow up with mine. So everything I wanted to do as a kid, I do with my children now. So it's everything, man. I live and breathe my children. They're the reasons why I go to work. They're the reason why I try to be creative in entrepreneurship. They change you, especially, from having a girl to a boy, having that dynamic in the household. And you realize that you're shaping and molding people that's going to be adults one day, that's going to be making decisions or possibly have to care for you. So you have to teach them how to love you. So it's major to me, man. I mean, I love children. If I could have some more, I would. My wife, of course.
Well, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
So you're talking about fatherhood. So kind of give us a little insight to your breakdown, your age range, boy, girl. Tell us how your family structure breaks down.
All right. So I have my oldest 14-year-old girl, Brianna. I have a 11-year-old son, Bryson, and I have a 5-year-old son, Braxton. All BRs because I'm vain like that, but it's all good. But yeah, that was strategic. Every child, looking back at it is something different, man. From my first child to how I raised the second one to the third, and they all have their individual personalities. But yeah, that's the dynamic. And yeah, I'll let you go on with your question. But yeah.
So wait. Did you have children after you were married?
Yeah, all my children were in wedlock. So, I didn't have any children out of wedlock. And I wanted to do it that way on purpose. The reason why is because my family is comprised of out of marriage children. Like, I think I can't even, I got a couple of cousins that were in wedlock, but I always thought it was kind of, I was always envious of children that had both their parents in the same home. So that was really important to me, when making a decision on having children.
Where'd you grow up?
Washington, D.C.
You did?
Yep.
Okay.
Left Washington, D.C. in middle school and went out to Maryland suburbs. and finished up at Largo High School out there in PG County.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So you saying you didn't grow up with your father directly in the home. So where did you learn, or who taught you how to be a father?
My grandfather, man. Now, growing up, knowing that it takes a village, man. So thankful for my fraternity, man. You guys, if everybody don't know, man, we piggyback off each other, have tons of conversation, and you need that. But growing up for me was my grandfather, my mother's dad. He was that pillar and that rock of the household, and gave me my first examples on how to carry myself as a young man, what his expectations were of me, and as I grew into different transitions, even as a full adult, he held me accountable for certain things, and that was very important. So I do that for my children as well. I feel like that the Black culture, the African-American culture, let me say, is one of the only cultures that don't have a rites of passage for their young men. So for doing like the photo booth for business for a few years, and being able to see how other cultures involve their young at such early age, like the bar mitzvahs and the bat mitzvahs for the Jewish kids. I was like, man, it'd be so cool if we had a rites of passage for our children. And so I plan on doing something like that for my sons, man. I want to let them know that, hey, at this age, you stepping into young manhood. And then at this age, you stepping into manhood. These are my expectations of it. I want to put some blessing on you before you go out the house. I want to make sure that you're accountable when you're in these schools and when you're dating these women. I want to make sure you don't make some of the mistakes I made, So without having that father figure there, man, look, it's fair game. I mean, it's free game on a lot of things that you don't know. So.
Got you. So when you talk about rites of passages and what you want to leave your son, so what are some examples of what you're thinking about? Because, like you said, that's not something that's prevalent in our culture. But what are you thinking as far as that, though?
It's more so just expectation, and foundation. You don't have to be every Sunday devout churchgoer, but you need to have some spirituality. And I want to put on him some verses that that help me along the way. I want to present him to my friends and other families like ours, and people I went to school with and grew tight over the years with, as this is the prince coming up. This is my prince. And this is how he's going to conduct himself. And I want to let people know, I want to let him know in front of our peers that he has an expectation on him. And a part of that expectation is to pull back and make sure that his brothers and sisters are okay. I just didn't have this, man. I didn't have, there was a lack of, I had my mother was great with raising me, but that father figure piece was just missing, and that was so important, man. So just to make sure that he's accountable, and make sure I give him some rules to move forward in life with.
Gotcha.
I got a question based off of that. When did you realize that it was important? Like for me realizing I didn't have a father, it wasn't a thing, right? Because I wasn't a father. But now, like seeing my son, that's when I started realizing, like, yeah, like how important it really is. Did you always feel like it was important?
Nah, because like
really
you
missing something.
Like you, it was normal. It was normalcy for me. So I didn't realize it until I started seeing the effects that it had on other persons like me. Look, man, we could have, without that father there, you have to take it to the extreme. You could have been in jail. You could have been killed. You could have been molested. With nobody quarterbacking you, you could turn into a killer or a monster, I knew it was important early because of the examples I had in the neighborhood growing up in DC of other guys like myself that didn't have that father, man. And not teaching us what to fall in love with. It took me a long time to get out of love with clothes and cars and all the stuff that don't appreciate. So if I had a father there, he possibly could have helped me along the way. And I'll get to my father later on. I'll tell you about him.
I mean, listen, you got the floor, man. You could see, from the images I remember of my father, I don't know if he would have taught me that because this shit was just hustling in the street. So that image can also go both ways, but
Yeah.
But your father wasn't around. When did he come around later on in life? Or
so check this out, and I'll be real brief, man. My father came to me later on in life, probably about I haven't heard from him for a while, and probably about 3 years ago, he contacted me. I ended up inviting him down here. He met my family, his grandkids for the first time. And the last time I seen him for that was like 96. So just that pattern again, multiple baby moms, which my mother was, one of his baby mothers, and multiple children. I just met some of my brothers and sisters within the last 5 years. It's crazy. So, but I look back and I say, well, if he was there with the stuff that he was getting into, and I'm not going to put his stuff out there, I may not have went to college or, other endeavors that I accomplished if he had a finger on me, on my pulse. So now I'm at the age now where I'm thankful that everything played out like it did, because it gave me that pedigree to, face some regret, face some doors shut in my face, and just build my skin up a little bit so I can fight and fend for my kids, man. Because I just really feel like that, man. Good guy, but he explained to me something. He said, man, I was 16, your mama was 17. I didn't know what I was doing. And then he said, when I came around the block, your grandfather told me he was going to kill me every time he saw me. So, and that's for sure. So it was like that.
But with that being said, so I know we always say that our fathers might not be there, or we weren't raised by our fathers. But do you feel like at times that might have been for the best when you look back, and when you look at, like, I even can say that sometimes about myself, as far as the way I grew up. Like, my biological father was missing at times. I went years without talking to him, but then there are times where you look back and you're like, you know what, those pieces that I feel like I missed may have been for the benefit of me long term. Do you ever think about that sometimes?
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm gonna tell you a real story. I got a brother that's the same age as me. We are total night and day. My father was more involved with him. He is currently serving a life sentence for some crimes he committed. And I think about that, how easily that could have been me. I don't know if his influence, one way or the other, caused my brother to do some of the things that he did. But I do know that if both of us had a strong father in there, our lives would have been completely different. So, to answer your question, in hindsight, I did all right. I do all right. But I think he was the missing piece for a lot of things. You got to understand, man. I learned about women really from women. I learned about, which is not a bad thing, but, wish I would have had my dad there to coach me along. My grandfather was too raw. You know what I'm saying? He was too left field. I came home one day, he had a banana and 2 oranges, you know what I'm saying? And a hot rag and smoke. I said, man, what is it? So, just he was just a missing piece for a lot of things, man. And it caused a lot of trauma. When you look back at some of my grade school records and some of the fights I used to get into and arguments I used to get into, I realized the pattern, watching my life in a book. A lot of that was anger built up because my dad wasn't at my game that day. Or, he missed a performance or something, When I drop 50.
What kind of game you talking about?
You had a real good story going until he started lying and shit. You had a game. Like,
so that joker started lying fast, didn't he?
Real quick.
Yeah, man.
You could have said band practice and I'd have believed.
Come on, man. I ain't playing no band instruments, man. But yeah, man, he, just in acting out in anger, and then you think you building a character of yourself, but it's really a defense mechanism. You know what I'm saying? You carry this burden on your shoulder, and you can't really, like, I feel like I couldn't really be a lot of myself until after I got out of college. Yeah, man, I really do. I really feel like that because, you finding out who you are, man. Finding out what you like, and not succumbing to a lot of peer things that they like. And, I didn't have a dad to say, you cool by yourself. And I tell my son that all the time. I tell Bryce that all the time. I said, look, I like the fact that you into STEM, and I like the fact that you into coding, and that's cool. And you don't have to be tough. You don't have to be a tough guy. You can go to school and you can do that. I ain't had nobody to tell me that.
That's interesting because I guess that's probably why my son isn't quite as aggressive. I never thought about it in that terms, like that aggression probably came because I look at my son and that's one thing that I miss in him. I'm like, you're just not aggressive at all.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because one thing I asked him yesterday, I say something good about yourself, right? And my daughter says I can draw very well. And my son said, I am myself, right?
Wow.
Because I tell him, like, it's okay if he doesn't want to do this. It's okay if he doesn't want to do that. Granted, it drives me crazy that he lacks aggression in certain areas. Like, we watching a boxing match, and I said, do you want to try this? He said, no, it's too rough. And I'm like, listen, I don't know if I'm building a son like this, but it's different, right? And I never thought about that. So you're right. Having a father, maybe that does change everything in that aspect.
But think about this, though, and let me get y'all's opinion on this. Part of our job as fathers is to raise our kids in a better environment, in a better situation that we grew up in, right? First and foremost. But with that being said, if we're raising them correctly and doing what we should be doing, we're going to put them in different environments. So our environments that we put them in, it negates some of the environments that cause aggression or cause that uncontrolled assertiveness. So what is it that we're supposed to do if we're doing the right thing, and it's going to cause certain side effects that we're accustomed to that they're not going to be privy to?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, man. I think about them being able to protect themselves. It's like, man, we live in this really great area, and my kids had to check me one day and was like, Dad, there's nobody selling crack around here. I'm on it.
Watch the wire.
Hey, you got to watch the corner. Don't talk to nobody. Might be a prostitute walking down the street or something. It was like, Dad, come on, this is not 1996. So I do struggle with that. Trying to take them to some other areas so they won't be so blindsided by some things. AJ, in being DC, you may be walking down the street and it be somebody with mental illness talking to themselves, right? So if my daughter wants to go to Howard, and I told her, I said, listen, Georgia Avenue and Florida Avenue right there, man, that's a crazy area. It's getting a little gentrified now.
Totally different. Though.
Yeah, it's totally different than Cobb County,
totally
Georgia.
Different, but yeah, you're right.
So, I just try to prepare them. So we ride the train sometimes. I take them down there to, look at the bridge, to, see homeless individuals, because they just never seen that, man. These are unicorns to these kids, man. I told them, I said, if you were in our neighborhood back in the day and you had grass, you probably get beat up at school, Yeah, because this is you're privileged. So now, you're in a school environment where all the kids got a lot of privilege, man. This is new. So now, a beef around here may be where as opposed to I'm used to, I'm watching them with their Jordans, right? I was like, hey, look, watch where you go with your Jordans. And they like, Dad, that don't really rock. But the beef around here is like, my daughter told me 2 kids got in a fight over a vape pen. Like, so that's, it's just suburb differences, man. And I think a lot of the kids are more acceptive of each other. Whereas if you were homosexual back in the day, you get teased or beat up. Now, everybody cool, you can't really do that or say anything derogatory to anybody that's living an alternative lifestyle. So those are just some of the differences I see, man. And my wife, she's a principal here, and she tells me all the time about different things that go on in the classroom that I wasn't really ready to deal with, man. My son came home and said, Dad, it's a boy in my class that dresses in a dress. And he said, should I be his friend? So, I never really had to deal with that as a dad. My daughter's playing basketball. She's saying 2 girls are, like each other. And, what do you tell your daughter? Hey, don't be this. All I tell them is, the example of your mother and I is who I, prefer that you be with. But if you do, we still love you anyway. This is difficult stuff for me, man. I mean,
so how do you walk that balance? Because we come from a non-PC generation. So how do you dance? Because I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but I'm gonna just talk from my perspective. Is that's a challenge in trying to find the sensitivity to talk in a PC culture at this point, because we all 3 of us on this phone right now are pretty straightforward, no matter what the situation is. And so how do you dance around that right now?
I dance with just trying to be sensitive to other people. And that's the growth in me, trying to be sensitive and let them know that, hey, it's nothing wrong with anyone that has a different sexuality, because truthfully, a lot of people with a different sexuality were my biggest clients. So I had to get over it quick, and not even use it, excuse me, y'all, not even use that as anything that fuels any anger or misunderstanding. Just treat everybody like people. And if somebody comes to you in a way that you feel uncomfortable, you have to verbally let them know. And that's where I come from, man. Just, try to be straight up like that. But it's just a tough topic. It really is. It's a tough topic.
There is another question we want to ask, because you've been a dad now for 14 years, right?
14, yep.
When was your first, like, man, I'm really a dad moment?
Probably when my daughter start walking and talking, because it just seems like everything from that point just fast forward, and all I can think about is her dating somebody.
Oh God!
Understand? Like that.
When she was walking.
Yeah, man, that really bothered me, bro. Like that really bothered me, and it still bothers me to this day, because she's in her first year of high school, and it's just so much unknown out here, man. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to react to someone wanting to date her, and how overbearing I should be or not be, because my father wasn't there to police, and my mother, she was just like, okay, you date here, this is what you're supposed to do. But she wasn't really over me to see it, So that was my first moment, man. When my daughter started walking and talking, I knew it was real. I knew it was real then.
Boy, went to dating.
Yeah, he went from 0 to 100 fast. So
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question about your daughter, though.
Okay.
Because we've known you for a while and for years actually. And how did your daughter change?
Man, I tell you what, man, y'all ain't gonna make me cry, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, go ahead. I would love to see it because I want to laugh anyway.
My daughter helped me. She helped me stop objectifying a lot of women and things, man. She really did. You know, she gave me a lot of hope and optimism. She gave me a lot of, just seeing her and how creative she is and how strong she is, helped me look at some different things in my wife, you know, and start imagining her in a daughter role to her father. It just had layers, bro. It was really layers. And you don't know how strong women are until you have a daughter, man. I mean, you know, resilient, and their strength. She made me look into all that, man.
I'm glad you said that. Sorry, AJ, but I'm glad you said that because I'm gonna tell you one thing that it was interesting that you said your daughter and she changed you. I used to say my daughter actually saved me because the path that I was going down, as far as not having feelings for people, as far as like just she softened me. She allowed me to understand that you have to tap into your emotions to care for somebody else. And so I'm glad you said that because I can relate to that wholeheartedly. Because be honest with you, we were hell. I mean, we were hell. Hell to deal with. Now, there's no way of dancing around that now. And so being able to be calmed down by a little person that tugs at your heart, that's very powerful. And I'm glad you said that.
Now hold on. Here's another piece though, because I think at one point I lost sight at who was the boss of the house. Because see, when you get the daughter, you idolize her so much and you put her on a pedestal so much, you have the tendency to push mama to the side a little bit. So I had to find some balance as she's gotten older of, you know, making sure mama's included on the decisions, making sure mama's, you know, first and things like that. And try to show my daughter through example of how I treat her mother. And that's paramount too, because you can tell them all day, right? You can tell your daughter something all day, but if she don't see you physically present, it's tough to hold her feet to the fire when she start dating. You know, hey, look, I want your conduct got to be right. You understand? Your conduct in the street got to be right because you ain't never seen me treat your mama like this. So if your mama require this of me, you need to require this of the people that you know, so on and so forth.
So you speak highly of their mother, of course,
Yeah.
you should, right? So how heavy do you rely on her when it comes to your daughter? Is it different how you rely on her when it comes to your daughter, as opposed to how you rely on her when it comes to your sons?
It is 100% different. It is. It's I rely on her to give her the feminine qualities that our family values, you know, demand. The respect, I rely her on the mother, my wife, to give our daughter the example of what a woman should be and should stand for, and the standards, for her to be a, you know, a positive woman. And in doing that, sometimes she has to get on her, which I don't like. So it's tough, man. You know, I really try to let her deal with my daughter in certain capacities, especially as she's getting older. Because it has a tendency to cause friction between us, and sometimes I'm left in the middle. And that's just the role of the husband / dad, man. Who do you yield to? If you know mama tripping a little bit, and maybe the daughter is right, do you side with the daughter? Can't do that. So
can't do that. Don't do it.
Your plate will be cold, man. You
can't have a plate.
You get if you have a plate.
That other side of the bed be cold too.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, look, I had some. I wouldn't even go up. I wouldn't even darken the bottom of the steps. I ain't even going upstairs.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So you speaking of how your wife helps with some of the aspects of raising your daughter as far as the discipline piece, but how do you balance discipline a daughter versus your son? Like, what's the difference? Because there's always a double standard.
Yeah,
I don't care what we say. How do you handle that?
I used to be more. I think that's why. That's great you asked me. Great question, because I think the most important piece is I was there from the start. So disciplining my son is a conversation, because you got to teach your children how to love you. You got to teach your children how to respect you. So now if my son does something, he'll come to me and say, Dad, I missed the trash. I apologize, and have a resolution. I put an alert in my phone so I won't miss it again. And that's respect. And that's all I ask for him, because he's going to make mistakes, right? He's not a bad kid, but I got to hold him accountable for some things. So that's our relationship. I don't have to put my hands on him. I do yell at him sometimes. That's just because that's that old school thing in me. Sometimes he may be in the hallway. I bark at him just to see his reaction, because that's life. People gonna talk to you a certain way, and you want to wait until you get 25.
Bullying him for no reason.
Yeah,
bullying for no reason.
I do. So
hey, look, you're talking to the pot right here. I do the same thing.
Yeah, we might shove each other or something like that, man. But it's just a beautiful relationship. And so the youngest one see how we interact, and so now he does that too. He's so respectful, because I've tried to instill respect in him, even in the sense of going to the barbershop. I said, look, when you walk in a man's establishment, you speak to everybody and make yourself known. So now when we go to the barbershop, they be like, hey, good morning, everybody. And I said, before you sit in that man's chair, you need to shake his hand and ask him how his day going. And then you sit down in the chair and get your hair cut. So it's just certain levels, man. I didn't have. Some of it I'm making it up on the fly. Sometimes I think of it more in depth, like, okay, when Bryce get 13, I'm gonna throw him in a little event, and I'm gonna have him in a suit with some sneakers on, and then I'm gonna do a presentation and say, hey, you growing up a little bit, here goes some hard bottoms. And I'm showing him how to tie his tie and give him some things that I didn't have, man.
All right, now you dancing now, but how do you counter that with how you deal with your daughter? You bark on her too, or how do you do that?
No, man, it's more because she's what I call the hybrid, man, because I feel like she got the strongest parts of my wife and the strongest parts of me, which means you got to deal with that differently, because I don't want her to rebel. So we have these things where we have like family meetings. I mean, this is like Huxtable grade stuff, man.
That sounds like counseling.
Yeah, I mean, but so look, I'm gonna tell you what it does. When you was a child and whoever your superior was, mom, dad, grandma, whatever, if they said something, you did it, right? And there was no talk back, or you might get slapped. So what we did, because I didn't have a voice as a kid, we give our children a little voice. Hey, Dad, earlier this week you yelled at me. It really wasn't my fault, because Bree did X, Y, Z, and so that's why I hit her. I was hitting her back. So it gives the kids opportunity to check us as parents as well, because we all growing. And then and I'm trying to get everybody to buy into this team concept, because guess what? you get everybody on board, you have a meeting about focusing in school, that helps the team out. So if you can get a scholarship to college, I'll give you a car. You see what I'm saying? So we helping each other out. I don't have to pay for school. You get a car. You know, we working it all together. So my daughter, I'm a little more communicative with her. We don't have to put hands on nobody. That's an old ancient thing. My wife put me on that game back in the day. She said, you whip a child, and she's heavy in education. So she said, you whip a child, yeah, they're gonna straighten up for a minute, but eventually they get numb to the whippings. And then, but you gotta take privilege away. So like the prison system, how is it that 2 guards or 1 guard control 30, 40 men? By privilege. You take the privilege away, everybody straighten up.
That makes sense. But if you look at the statistics about true reform, does it really work? But that's a whole nother conversation. That's the only pushback I give you.
Huh?
That's the only pushback I give you as far as what study shows what's more effective. A combination, one or the other. That's always a topic of conversation amongst the community.
Yeah, I think it's individual, man, and you got to know your kids. So if I go up to the school and I say, hey, teachers, hold on, Bryce, tell me what you did. I know he's gonna tell me the truth because he don't want to deal with the consequences of lying to me. So my daughter as well, and we just have that relationship. And until they violate that trust, then that's how I'm gonna treat them.
Makes sense. And I love the individual approach that you're taking because it seems like that's a common theme across fathers that really are involved, is that everything is individualized to the child. But that comes with maturity. And so everything that you're saying is coming from a mature perspective. But let me ask you one question. Have you always been a mature father, or what are the areas that really had to make you grow as a father into what you are now? Because you couldn't always had it put together. You sound like you have it together, but how did you get there?
Nah, man. See, me and my wife met in college, as you guys know. And so there was always a comfort there. And that comfort transitioned over to the marriage. Now, when you single married, not single married, but
Lord. Jesus.
And what concept
when you married with no children. When you married with no children.
Okay.
Single married.
Single married. Jesus Christ, man, she can kill me. Hey.
Yeah, she gonna kill you now.
Yeah. So when you married without children, you still have a lot of flexibility in how you can move, right? When that child comes and you don't have that flexibility no more, for me, it was a little frustration there because I was going out. We in Atlanta, we were, this was a life-changing event. So my normalcy changed. So I couldn't run to the club, because mama's recovering, she's getting rest, she's on the medications. I got the baby all night. That was tough. So, that was tough. And then I think a lot of endeavors, like me and my wife were good about supporting each other, right? And I have to big up her because she supported me through all of my crazy entrepreneurial endeavors. Now, through that, money wasn't always good. Jobs wasn't always stable. So there were times where she worked, I had to stay home with the kid, because I'm chasing my dream. And I think those were some of the times that were my roughest as a parent, because then you start to, when you have idle time to think, when the baby sleep, you're like, look, man, this is way more than what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the baby and the mama take care of the baby. I'm in the streets. I'm out and trying to build my business. And you you don't realize this. Hey, these bills keep coming every 30 days, bro. Every 30 days, these bills coming. So it was just a lot of instances over the 16 years that we've been married where it was some tough patches with the kids. And one of the things that brought me back to reality was knowing my story with, without having a father, and you make hiccups and you get back right and you learn from it. And you make hiccups again and you get back right and learn from it. Because as we're changing as adults, the kids are growing as well. So it's a lot of constant morphing into different things. My fatherhood, my parenthood now is eons better than what it was when we first started. And it was just a learning process, just like marital counseling, man. You can go to a marriage counselor, you could, but is he going to tell you how she going to act when she makes six figures, or when she, get pregnant and she's hot, you just don't know the questions to ask. So we just try to keep an open line of communication. Even when we have disagreements, we try to come together for the betterment of the children, and just try to work for the good. And I get into this. I wanted to get into disciplining the children a little more too, because that when you discipline a child, you have to really be careful, because you don't want to separate from the child. You want to let them know at the end of the disagreement that you love them. And I had a situation with my daughter I'll share with you guys. I think we both was going through something. I think I had anxiety about her going to high school. And I think she had anxiety about her physical change. Okay. So I was noticing that the clothes was fitting different. So I started tripping. All right. I start tripping because I couldn't understand. It was like overnight, she had breasts, her body I was like, what in the is going on? And so we had got into it real bad, me and my daughter. Now I'm taking drives. I'm driving at night, speeding, mad. She upset with me. We not speaking. And then I pulled her aside one day. I said, listen, you have to separate when we're playing and having a good time, and then respecting me as a dad. And I'll respect you as a young lady and as my daughter as well. And we had that conversation, and she gave me a hug and she started crying. And I just, wanted to make it right. You know what I'm saying? Because she can have plenty guys outside of the house treat her away. And I don't ever want to be that guy to make her feel like that. So we got a lot of power too as dads, man. We got a lot of power because they just want us. They just want us, man. We're the first example of a man. We're the first example of how they're going to be treated and what they're going to accept. So even I've been wrong sometimes because I'm figuring out the dad thing as we go. And just me apologizing to her made the world's difference. So it's just about having that open layer of communication, man. The girl is way more tougher than my boys, for sure. For sure, dude. Like, tell me, man.
But let me ask you, oh, my fault, AJ. I was just thinking, I wanted to piggyback off of what he was about to say. I mean, what he was just saying, and I'm trying to get it understood. So what were you mad at? That her body was changing, or that she was going to high school, or that she was getting attention? Like, or you were scared that little boys that act like you used to when you were younger? Like, what?
It was a combination of all of it.
It's the last one. It's the last one.
It was a combination of all of it, man. I think that again, it's life-changing events, man. It's, she's growing up. I got 3.5 years left, and she'll be going off to somebody's college. It's what do you do, man? I'm losing. I feel like I'm every day I'm losing my little girl. This is my little girl, you know? So it hits different, you know?
You ain't seen it yet.
Yeah,
Trust
I know.
me, you know from the very beginning, you and I talked from years ago.
Right.
And it's not anything that I haven't told you that hasn't been true.
Right.
For the most part.
Yep.
Let me tell you this. I just dropped my daughter off at college. You haven't seen changes yet. And so that goes back to what you were talking about when you said, you know, you apologized and, you know, y'all hugged it out and stuff like that. There's two things that I want to point out, though. One, as she gets older over the next couple of years, she's going to change. Your relationship with her is going to change. And so my other question, my actual question to you is that though you may have hugged it out, what behavior have you changed to actually work towards solidifying the relationship, because you're going to need it in a year or two. So what have you done as far as things that actually change, not just speak, but action?
Just set healthy boundaries for her and myself, man. For example, trying to give her some responsibility, because see, my daughter think I'm her limo driver, I'm her, you know, financier, you know, this, you know, dad to do it, you know. And I had to set those boundaries so she'll gain some more independence, and it kills me, bro. Like my wife, they went out to eat, and my daughter, she came back, she said, Dad, I used my bank card and stuff like that. And I said, you did? So I'm looking at my wife like, well, why you didn't pay for it? And so I cashed after the money. She said, my wife come to me, she said, I didn't appreciate that because I'm trying to teach her some independence and you always trying to save the day. So I didn't understand that then, but I do now, because I had to set those boundaries in place. Like, you know, you go to the store, you got some money, you got to use your money. So that was tough for her too, because she was like, Dad, you always give me, you know. I may still cash app her back sometimes. Sucker, man, sucker.
Hey, we all are when it comes to little girls, though.
Yeah.
So speaking of all of this growth, so what is it that you would tell someone that they just now about to have a child, or they're aspiring to have a child? What is something that you wish someone told you, or what advice would you give someone that's going into this fatherhood adventure?
Now, so are they in my same situation? Are they married? Or
no,
this is just
you give the advice to whoever you want to give it to.
Okay.
Someone you can give it to someone that's married, someone that's not, either way.
Yeah,
I would say you probably should do married because that's the experience you have, but
that's all I really know, you know.
I mean, like,
so I would say to any dad, man, just have a certain level of respect for yourself, the woman involved, and the child. You know, plan well, which is one thing I didn't do because I didn't know money at the time. You know, I didn't know money. So you think you got enough Similac and diapers and whatever, and they blow through that like a hurricane. So I would definitely plan well, plan more for a rainy day, not isolate the child from the mother with your feelings. Like you got to include the mama and the child and try to find that balance. You know, spirituality is tough because a lot of people say, you know, pray together, and I get that too, but you gotta put some boots on the ground too. You know, I think a man should, you know, work and bring in multiple streams of income because that helps the situation. You know, always do right by that child, because you and the mama gonna get into it regardless. And you know, if both of you guys have a conversation, or fortunate enough to have a conversation and can communicate like adults, always keep the children first, man. That's what I would tell them.
So I wanted to get you out of here on one question, but I want to circle back to something that you've been talking about a lot. And you were talking about your wife, you're talking about marriage, right?
Yep.
But I want to ask you this question. How does the state of the marriage affect your parent? Because we all go through different seasons in a relationship. But how does the state of your marriage and your relationship with their mother and your wife affect how you parent and how effective you are?
All right. So for me, I would say in general that the state of the marriage has a overall 100% effect on the children. That's why the parents got to be together with their decision. If you're fortunate, my wife and I learned as we go, but if you're fortunate to have that conversation and be on the same page about how you're going to discipline, how you're going to organize, who has what role in the house, what your responsibility is going to be to the daughter versus the sons and vice versa. If you're fortunate enough to have those conversations, then fine. If not, I would say, you will have to just play it by ear, man. That's, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough.
It's definitely tough because a lot of times we could subconsciously project on our children based on what we're going through with our spouse at the moment. Like,
I do got a thought on that, E.
Yeah, if you're pissed off at one person, then it can.
See, you know what? I'm gonna tell you this. What I was gonna say too was, it does have an effect, but it shouldn't. Because no matter how mad I get at my wife, that has no, relation on how I'm gonna treat the children. Period. Like we can fuss, fight, whatever, and then me and the kids going out to eat, or we going to the go-kart track, or that's paramount. But it does. I can see, the marriage does have an effect because the children pick up faster on the air and the temperament of the home. So if mama hot, she's hot, and everybody know it. You know what I'm saying? If dad hot, dad gone.
Or what?
So that's how we get down. I have to go for a walk. I have to go drive. I have to go relax, because I don't want, but that's the growth for me. You know what I'm saying? Not really engaging. So the kids know, now they're at the age where they know, oh, dad must be on one. Oh, dad, my daughter come to me, she say, dad, mom on one today. So, she'll call me, yeah, she on one today. And I feel it. I feel it in the garage. Before I walk in the house, she on one.
And you're gonna lose if you engage too. So
Listen, man, and that's what I would tell a young father if he's just so happen to be married. Look, man, you take the L. You're gonna take the L regardless.
One way or the other.
I couldn't understand why my grandfather would sit there and let my grandmother bark at him. You taking the L regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, you taking the L regardless.
Cool. So here's my last question, and
right.
I want everybody to answer this when we talk to them. And it's more so when you're gone, what do you want your legacy as a father to be?
Man, I want to be respected by my children. I want to be. I don't want to be idolized, but I want them to speak of me in a good way, where a lot of the things that I implemented will resonate through generations. Things that I'm doing now, I want to be responsible for later on. You got this home, or we're in this position because our great grandfather set up these precedences and sacrificed for these wills and life insurance policies and things like that we got in place to help out generations. Because now I'm 42, man. It ain't about us no more, man. I felt like I lived, I did it. You name it, I did it. Now it's about the kids and what they about to do. So, trying to be in the best financial position, the best mentality to help them, continue to grow, man. So that's an awesome question, because that's what I would love. I would love my legacy to be solid and be respected, where everybody, I do want to be old too. I want everybody to come to my services and speak well about me.
Oh, I got some stuff I'm gonna say.
Come on, my brother. Come on, my brother.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, man. And it's always good to sit down and talk to you about anything it is. But fatherhood is something that we really want to highlight in our community. And for you to take the time and talk to us and share, give your insight, to drop the gems that you have, the experiences that you've gone through, man, we really appreciate you just taking the time to be with us.
Yep. Thank you guys, man. Congratulations on your podcast. Super proud of you guys. I thought it was a absolute great idea when you guys first mentioned it. And I wish you all a good level of success, my brother.
All right, bro.
Appreciate it.